On today's podcast, we're going to be talking about how to determine return on investment when thinking about tools you use, when thinking about services, and just when to determine whether it's right to pay for something or not. So, uh, I would say one thing that I have seen in business is that people don't really figure out what the return on investment is going to be before they start paying for tools a lot of the time. But this is for the audience, when I was working with Josh, he was really good at pushing back on should we pay for something just because we like it versus will it actually bring a return on investment? So uh, I know you probably have some good stuff, Josh. I want to hear some of your initial thoughts on this.
That was a nice way of Caleb saying I'm cheap.
Hey, that's not always a bad thing. I'm cheap too.
I was telling Caleb, I've seen many tools come and go. And I think it kind of goes back to the, is it Jim Collins, Good to Great, where it doesn't, companies that do really well and use technology really well, it's not necessarily the tools they use, but how they use them. So you can use an old technology in an innovative way. You may not necessarily need a new technology or tool. I'm going to caveat this with I'm not necessarily around a lot of businesses in which physical tools are used. It's mostly digital, mostly computer based, etc. Not a lot of phone apps or yeah. But I tend to think that the ones that are best are the ones that are going back to this whole thing about most of what I do is behavioral, not technical in nature. Like other people could do my job, but the thing that trips people up is they forget to send a receipt or they don't put in information. It's like the behavior of sitting down and doing the thing doesn't happen, and that harms you somewhere else. So if a tool is cheap enough, but helps you sit down and do the thing, even if it's stupid, then it may be worth it. For example, I think QuickBooks is almost always worth it on the cheapest option because just the bank feed. Having a bank feed.
Yeah.
That's like, oh yeah, I did buy that thing. That holds information is very useful.
Did you see that QuickBooks is now implementing the AI bank feed as default?
I figured that would be the case, but I had not seen that it was. I have been varying degrees of companies that I work in have had it switched on. Like they'll just put you on it and they'll be like, you can switch back if you want.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, the other one is a lot better.
Awful.
I don't even know what the AI features are necessarily, but whatever. That's
yeah. What I really want the AI feature to be is I want it to be able to predict what account to put things in. But I always go back to this example, which is like Speedway has always been fuel. In this client's books, I've never put Speedway in another spot into it, but you can't figure that out. Anyway. So yeah,
service. No.
So, if it's cheap enough, even if it's a crappy software that's not going to be around for a while, it may be useful just to get you as the owner or something to actually do your books. Because that's the thing I see the problem the most is people hate bookkeeping, and so they will avoid it like the plague, and then it becomes let's touch this in 2 months when everything's on fire. The other thing, just these general rules with technology, is that if it's not a big vendor or it's not a popular software, it better be cheap or have a privately maintained Like you're gonna pay Caleb to maintain the software that he specifically made for you. Because I've seen a lot of softwares that promise a lot, but then they never take off, and so they eventually just die, and people stop maintaining them, so they slowly
Mhm.
stop working.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are like general rules for technology. The additional thing that, uh, like the third kind of the big thing is if you don't have capacity to learn the software, then buying a new tool probably is not going to help you. Uh, like even I have this thought even with Excel, although Excel is such a basic tool that I can't imagine working without it.
There are lots of
But
people
there are
who
so
just
many
don't
useful
use it.
features in Excel, and so many times I meet people that like have no idea how to use real basic functions of it. Uh, it's like this is not speeding up your work. Like you
You
could
can
really
add
speed this
numbers
up.
in Excel? I had no idea you could add numbers in Excel. Are you
Right.
kidding?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so it for most people it probably doesn't matter all that much. Um, the downsides of adding a new tool is it actually just a like shiny object and it's gonna suck time away, or is it going to break soon and suck time away, or is it one of those things that's like absorbently expensive, uh, and rolling out of it is going to be terrible. Like
Yeah.
if you create a custom CRM or something and then end up hating it, then um, you're
Yeah.
screwed.
The switching cost is really high. That's actually a good one. I didn't think about that one as much as I've thought about two other pieces of this argument, but that is a huge one because lots of people don't actually end up using the software that they buy. And so then the switching cost is really high. And so that's also a big piece that people don't think about. But so the way that I think about ROI is kind of twofold. One is time. Can you pay for something that, so for example, if I charge like $30 an hour, can I pay for a tool that is $30 a month? Will that save me 1 hour per month at least? Then it's break even. Anything above that, totally worth it. So when I was building some of the custom apps on Claude, I paid for the max subscription, which is $100. But then that probably saved me 5+ hours. So that made sense. But then that also brings me into the other piece of the argument, which was, I mean, I guess there was two ways to think about it. So those custom apps actually are going to save me a lot more time. So I predict that it's probably going to save me like 4 to 5 hours a month just in different things that I'm doing. So the apps themselves were worth it. The initial build time was a lot, but over the course of a couple months, it's going to break even and then save me more time. The other piece was building the apps gave me invaluable knowledge on how to build apps that is kind of hard to actually like put a number on. So that's another piece of this is paying for some like this would be more like a service. So if you were paying for a class or paying for something where it's giving you information uh is going to be helpful and is probably going to bring in more money than how much you paid. So for me, if I paid for an AI class that taught me how to build custom apps and it was $200, but if I could get even one client for $1,000 right there, it 5x'd what I put in. So I would say those are the two sides of how I think about ROI is like, will it save me enough time or will it make me more money than I'm paying for it? And I think even just estimating that, I don't, I mean, I have a number in my head for what I would charge per month and what my time's worth per hour. but I'm kind of just estimating what I'm paying for software. Like, okay, this is about how much I'm making. This is about how much I'm paying for the software. So it's going to save me. It has to save me this much time. And then it usually does because I'm cheap. So I don't pay for stuff that's not going to save me at least what I'm paying for it, if not more. But yeah, that's how I tend to think about ROI. And this month, I've thought about that a lot more because I've built some apps and done some, I've paid for more services than I had previously, but I can see how soon the ROI is going to, you know, it's going to be there and I'll probably make a lot more from what I paid than I would have if I didn't pay for it. So a good example was I paid for an email. Basically, I paid for like a sequence of email softwares where I got a lot of contacts of like business consultants. Then I paid to what's called like warm your inbox for cold email reach outs. Because if you start sending cold emails too soon, then they just go straight to spam. So you got to kind of warm your inbox and basically send emails back and forth between yourself so that it looks like there's actual. It's really weird, but the goal is not to spam people. The goal is to like reach out about a service. With a cold email, you just don't want that to land in spam. Then I am going to pay for a software that actually helps in one of my automation workflows go through a whole sequence. So it takes the contact, does research on the contact, builds an initial email draft, puts it in Google Sheets for me to look at and approve and refine, then press approve, and then it then sends that email to the contact. But if I even get one singular client from all that, I already got a return on investment, and I'm going to get about 2,500 contacts to reach out to. So I feel like the probability of me getting one client is pretty high because what is that, like 0.001% or something if I even get one client. But the other side is it teaches me about, building another automation, learning about cold email sequences, learning about how not to land in spam, all that stuff. So I think it was worth it either way, but the probability of me getting a client makes that ROI in my head worth the cost that I paid for some of the software.
Yeah, advertising is, or marketing is fat tailed. Like there's a large pool of people that will never be your clients, but sometimes if you can reach the one or two, that's all you need.
Yeah.
And especially when the cost is low enough, like that's pretty reasonable. I think also while you were talking, it reminded me that you are a person who likes to learn and is interested in new experiences, and curious. But that's not true of all people. So I think I would maybe tweak my answer to also say it also depends on if it's you, the business owner, that's being subjected to the new software, or your employees.
Mm.
Because I do think about like our previous conversation about we have people that don't use AI. I got to experience actually yesterday somebody who was a little older than us. Like I'm in my 30s, so I'm going to keep it vague. This person who is older calling a younger person in my presence, and asking them if they could query something in AI for them. No, something interesting about that is like, is this what the future looks like, where people with money don't actually interact with AI? They have a personal agent that interacts with whatever the current AI is. Like you
Yeah.
outsource, you're keeping up with whatever. I guess my grandparents were doing that for years with computers, so maybe there's nothing new under the sun. But it made me think, like you, the business owner, especially if you enjoy it, if the cost is low enough and you have some amount of spare time that doesn't need to be client facing or something, and you enjoy, because I do this a lot where like, yeah, $100, I'm going to justify it by I'm learning a skill. But even if that skill doesn't end up helping me significantly, I enjoyed the process. Like, I just enjoy learning. I'm going to spend some amount of money on audio books
Yeah.
or on, online courses or whatever anyway. However, I definitely work with some people who, like, one of my coworkers said one time, people don't like change. And like, that's absolutely true. People will like change more if they decided to do it. But people do not like change when it's imposed on them. So another kind of ROI thing that I might, if your projected ROI is good enough without this, then it may be worth it anyway. But I think also taking into consideration, if you've got a team under you and they're used to doing a system the way the system is done, then make sure it's a big enough improvement to make everybody annoyed. Because any sort of snafu, they're going to blame you.
Hmm.
And if they don't like change, they're going to be surly about it. Even if they're nice people, it's going to annoy them.
Yeah.
Um, and especially if you find a flaw in it and it tends to spit out bad data or has major flaws, then as the owner, if you started the project, people are going to blame you. Even in the nicest way, it's going to be hard not to lay blame at your feet. So I don't know. That probably wasn't particularly helpful, but it's always a good consideration that if people don't like change.
Yeah, I would say that when thinking about ROI, if you had to have like specific like kind of like a checklist for ROI, it's know what your estimated hourly, how much you're worth hourly, know whether that software, it doesn't have to be like specific, like I am worth $32.57 per hour. Like that doesn't have to be, but an estimate of what you're worth hourly, know whether that a software is going to save you that much time, however much time you're paying for it. Uh, and then know, I guess I don't I don't even know how you would value the knowledge other than know that you can see a path where that cost is either going to bring in more income for your business, or the knowledge that you gain, it was worth paying to you. Because, if you're in a business where you're doing landscaping and then you want to learn about, I don't know, some other random part of business that you're not going to touch. I mean, it's not going to help business, but if you enjoy it, then maybe it was worth it. But mostly, like, is it going to bring in more income than you're paying? That would be kind of how you value knowledge. So those would be the three things. What's your hourly time? How much time will a software or a service save you? Or how much income will a service slash knowledge bring you? And that's how I think about ROI if I had to sum it down into three small things.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. That's a good articulation. I think the fuzziest one is like this thing that might not help you in the immediate, but in small ways might help you in the future. And at some level, even if you aren't getting immediate help from it, it can be healthy to throw small amounts of money to test new things, because, like, going back to if you've never interacted with a particular feature, you don't know it exists and you don't know that you would use it or want it. So,
Yeah.
if a software is $20 a month and you want to try it out for a month because you have the resources to do so, it's probably a great idea. I mean, you paying $100 for Claude for a month, it's like, okay, Claude might go away, but you're going to interact with AI probably the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So this is probably not a terrible idea to push the boundaries of what's the most powerful version of this and what can it do and can't it do.
And also, one huge thing that I've talked to you about before, um, but you didn't even know that I was necessarily asking it this way, is don't pay for the annual subscription on something that you're unsure about. Just don't do it. You're locking yourself in for a whole year. You're probably going to want to switch before the end of the year. Just don't do it. I've paid too many annual subscriptions for things. They weren't like exorbitant amounts of money, but then probably 4 or 5 months in, I was like, "Oh, I wanna try this other one." But I was paying for the annual subscription for this one, so I had already paid for it, and I felt like I needed to stick with it. That would be the big thing, is pay for it for the month or for whatever the smallest period of time is if you're unsure if it will really help or if you're just trying it out. Don't lock yourself in.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. I didn't even think of that because I never do it.
No, I know, and that's why I've talked with you about it, and you didn't even really know that I was talking about that because I remember specifically there was like a personal finance software and I was like, should I pay for this? And you were like, well, is there a monthly subscription? Because I was thinking about doing the lifetime version. And you were like, just pay the $7 for a month and see if you like it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Not paying the whatever $70 or something for the lifetime version, just paying $7 to see if it's even worth it. And it wasn't. So I didn't pay this. I didn't end up paying for it anyways. So I
There,
appreciated that point of view.
I think there's an argument to be made for someone carving out a niche on the internet. I don't think it's even doable, but where you pay a subscription to maybe a slightly pool all the payroll softwares. This is a terrible idea, so don't do it, but maybe it would work for some other software. Pool all the payroll softwares that are all kind of at the consumer level: Gusto, ADP, Paychex, I don't know, QuickBooks
Paycor.
Payroll. Somehow have it to where you can put in most of the information and get it shared between all of them. Pay some company a not insignificant amount of money to have access to all of them for like, I don't know, 6 months, and be able to run a payroll on each one of them and test out things. And then you can go to that vendor and pick them permanently and do the year or sign a contract or whatever. Because that's a annoying problem, especially for small business.
Yeah.
Is you either just find a friend who used ADP and they said, well, I had a good experience, as if that's a good pool of data, and run with it and just be blissfully unaware of other options. Or you spend a tremendous amount of time and money. Oh yeah, I'm going to try ADP for 3 months. Oh yeah, like I'm going to spend the hours of setup to work in Paycor and do that for another 30 hours.
Get your money stolen.
Yeah, yeah. So being able to try a bunch of things would be an interesting idea. There is actually, I think it's in the UK, there's a business called, it's not The Hub, but it's something along those lines, where it's like a strip mall or a central location where a bunch of restaurants have set up. And the idea is kind of that thing where it's like for private investors or people that just want to start up a restaurant that is unique. They put a lot of them in this space so that they can keep overhead costs low of the building and the patios, et cetera, because it's like shared by the strip mall, but so that you can test out the idea of a restaurant before you expand it.
Interesting.
To see if just anybody will show up. Now,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not a perfect system because like a 5-star restaurant, you probably want to be in a higher end part of town or something. Yeah, I'm sure there are limits to it, but it's kind of that idea, but in physical form. Here's a central location where you can test out an idea to see if customers enjoy it or not, and then move it elsewhere if it works out.
Yeah, that would be really interesting, being able to test a lot of software. Well, you got anything else?
Nope.
Me neither. So make sure that you guys like and subscribe on YouTube. We actually talked about this is a little different, but we talked about skills that you can learn in business in a different podcast. So those would some of the skills we talked about in that episode could be things that you could pay for that would be worth your time income wise and just valuable in business. So go check that out. If you're on Spotify and you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review and we will see you on the next podcast.